Hi.
So exciting to talk about this topic, Hillary, because we talk to our patients about this every day, right? And I think it's more and more recognized that sleep is such a foundational piece of health. It's sort of just as we discussed the gut health, sleep is also one of those huge things that are blocking people from healing and feeling good. And so today's topic is, do hormone changes mess with sleep? So Hillary, is that a yes or no? What do you think?
Yeah, I'm saying yes.
Okay.
I think it starts out with women. Do I have like a weird, can you hear me? Double.
No, you sound perfect to me. And it looks
Okay.
so nice and sunny there. I'm just incredibly jealous because it's very gray and overcast here. So look at that sun.
It's very nice here today in California, but it's supposed to be a heat wave. So we'll see.
Mm.
Tomorrow I'm hosting a dinner party and it's supposed to be very hot and I don't have air conditioning. So we'll see how that goes.
It's
But
going
it'll
to
be
have ice drinks,
What's
frozen
that?
drinks, frozen drinks,
Frozen drinks.
non-alcoholic. Because when we're talking about sleep, we're always talking about that too. All the things that bother our sleep. We'll do that at the end. But as we age, the premise of this discussion, and this is a really big deal, is that as we age, far more of our medical problems and our mental health issues, so depression, anxiety, just lack of concentration, brain fog, as we age, many of those issues are attributed to sleep issues. It's actually sleep impairment that's causing them, and nobody talks about it. You go to your doctor, you say, I have brain fog, I have
I
fatigue.
don't know how many people say to their doctors they have brain fog. I think that's a question that's asked. You know what I mean? Like, I think that it's so interesting. Like, I had a patient the other day with major brain fog. We treat a lot of brain fog when you're going through hormone changes, whether you're on a fertility journey, but for sure in perimenopause, brain fog is one of the leading symptoms. But I think women don't even know how to quantify it. So it's like that's something that happens when you're asking questions like, do you ever walk into a room and forget why? Do you ever feel foggy? Can you not remember your grocery list?
Yes, yes, and yes.
And I know I've been trying to work on your hormones for a while, but in women, I think what you'll see is when you go through PMS, so many women will experience what we're talking about in the days before their period, where they have altered sleep. They can't sleep as much. They feel more foggy. They feel moodier, weepier. They have some sort of impact on their mental health, their mood, and their physical health and their sleep. And that's because there's a major drop or change in hormones. Like, the whole thing about hormone balance is that when we change, when we're going through our cycle and experiencing changes, and some women experience that more than others, those changes are what cause the symptoms. And so in perimenopause, which is happening mostly in our kind of young to mid 40s, and it sneaks up because you're not thinking when you're 43 that you're having perimenopausal changes. Like, that's just, I remember I would talk about it with my girlfriends and they were so offended. Like, it's so offensive that you're even saying the word menopause. And I'm like, okay, you guys, it's like 10 years before menopause is considered perimenopause. And that just means that there's hormone shifts and changes. But I think the number one symptom is sleep changes.
It starts with sleep. It does.
And that's because the cute little eggs that live on your ovary that get dropped during ovulation, and that the corpus luteum of that egg is mostly responsible for releasing progesterone, and progesterone is massively important in your sleep pathway. Like, it just really helps the body relax and chill. When that's not happening as effectively, then your sleep gets messed up.
And it's a two-way street, right? So you need good quality sleep.
So that's what you're saying. So then
your hormone systems
drives the changes, right?
it's just something that absolutely needs to be addressed. And don't you have a lot of people come in with their monitors? Even yesterday at my clinic, a woman said, I stopped wearing my Aura ring because it just kept telling me that my sleep wasn't deep and good quality and my recovery wasn't, proper, and I was like, wait a minute, that's actually good data to have. Let's work on this.
I love
Probably
it.
part of these symptoms. But it was so funny because she was like, I just stopped wearing it because it didn't help me to see that over and over and over again because it makes you feel badly. But I'm kind of coming on today to talk to you and hoping that people listen, get the idea that the sleep is something to absolutely work on, and the hormones is something to absolutely work on because they're in communication together. And when we get older, I am getting older, and I will tell you that I'm reading the data about sleep and noticing that, and it's definitely linked with hormones, that I'm not getting as deep sleep as I was when I was, my children's ages or in my 20s or 30s. I'm just not. And that's the way we are set up as we age. You don't get into as deep a sleep. So guess what? We have to do other things for calming our minds and working on our health to get maybe a longer sleep period. And I love that idea of like giving yourself the opportunity to have 8 hours. I know you're doing 7 hours, but just giving
Me,
yourself, yeah, I know. Well, you're working on it. But it's a really big deal
a
that
work in
people aren't
progress.
yeah, that people aren't thinking about. So I just want to talk to one really specific issue with hormone changes, and women that we work with a lot are saying, I have this abdominal obesity. I'm doing all the exercise and the diet things, and I'm working with the nutritionist. I'm doing everything that you all are saying, but I'm not losing the weight. And then you and I come in and we say, well, what's the sleep looking like? And we have to really work on that. And then the weight loss happens. So it's a block to curing so many of your issues that working on sleep and hormones is really important, because there's a whole other hormone issue of our stress hormones that just messes all of this up. So that progesterone steal is a real issue here with sleep, because having high cortisol, stress hormone, directly blocks progesterone, which is one of the most soothing, lovely, nice hormones to have. If you know pregnant women, you know that progesterone is a pretty chilling hormone. Those people
Are you
sleep.
speaking to me?
Yeah, if you do know pregnant women, but
No,
it's true.
the progesterone steal. That's something that, like me having
Mhm,
PCOS, that's what I've had
mhm,
my whole life. So it
right.
really sets me up for long-term chronic issues
Wait,
because
explain it more just another time, like in your wording. What is that? What is the progesterone steal for people?
so when people like me
Mhm,
are just like me are type A'ers
yeah,
and run on kind of busy, aggressive energy.
mhm,
And part of that is driven. I have what's called polycystic ovarian syndrome. So I have a higher testosterone level. So it's just like I'm partially just driven that way. That's just who I am, how I
mhm.
function.
Yep.
And I had good East Coast parents that I think put the fear of God into me that like boredom or quiet or resting is not productive. Is that like the right thing? That, the East Coasters, we just do our thing. The great thing is that the millennials are coming in with very different ideas about, I think, being productive. Anyway, but so it was always just like drive, 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 drive. Cut off the hours of sleep. I mean, I remember even in eighth grade, I would dance all night and then sleep 4 or 5 hours and then do my homework. It was always like the sleep was the thing that I could give up. My mom as well. We just did that and functioned fine the next day because we could drive, drive, drive. But what happens when you have PCOS or you're driven by stress hormones is that in order to run your biochemistry and your hormone balance, your body will use progesterone to make cortisol. So that means you have a relative progesterone deficiency.
Mhm,
And that causes all sorts of problems with infertility or weird periods if you have PCOS,
mhm.
sometimes even relative estrogen dominances. So
Absolutely.
like cysts and issues with egg quality. But so over time, you're
Mhm,
not getting the feel good, relaxing hormone. And over time that adds up to cause hormone imbalance and damage by cortisol and your stress hormones. You know what's so funny now is progesterone is one of the main hormones I prescribe. I give it a lot during perimenopause. We give it a lot sometimes during fertility treatments.
Mhm.
And it's so funny because even now, like knowing everything I know, prescribing it to, I resist it. It's so interesting. It's like I see the bottle. I know I should take it at night. I know it will help me with my sleep. I know I need it because of my hormones. I'm taking estrogen, right? Like I'm doing HRT because I'm in perimenopause. And yet I resist it. It's so fascinating. It's like,
Hmm.
why? We have these like setups hormonally where we even like crave or resist. It's funny that
Wow.
that's something I've always missed. You would think that I would just be like, "Oh my gosh," and it feels amazing when I take it, but there's something in me. I mean, it's very interesting. I would never miss a day of my estrogen,
But
but
maybe you get more sleep and you actually are productive and you want to get things done. So does it make you sleep longer and you just
no,
want those
I
extra
don't
hours? I don't
the thing about progesterone, if you have a progesterone deficiency,
know.
so
Mhm.
as you're going through perimenopause or infertility, so people with PCOS, and
Mhm.
you help support the progesterone deficiency in perimenopause or during fertility, or that's during the luteal phase, so that's during the second part of your cycle. If you support progesterone, and that can be done with herbs or with the hormone, you're just going to get way better sleep overall, and it will actually impact your estrogen. You'll you get a reduced stress hormone, so that will help your estrogen even be better. So the whole name of the game is reducing stress hormones and using estrogen and progesterone to keep cortisol out of the mix,
Right.
right?
And it's not just PCOS, it's a big problem in fertility treatment. So I have a really different hormone setup. I'm really estrogen dominant, but I also had a relative progesterone deficiency and a luteal phase defect. So interesting, we came with two very different genetic and hormone setups, but we both needed to take progesterone and to support our progesterone pathways when trying to get pregnant. So it is interesting. And it's this really, really sort of obvious thing, I guess, but hormones affect every single cell in our body. That's what, by definition, what a hormone is, as opposed to, a vitamin or something like that. So hormones have action in every cell. And we really think about hormones in other ways. We think about testosterone for our muscles, and we think about estrogen and women and skin and different things for women. But if you think about these hormones and what they do to our brains, and that's really sort of sleep is controlled by our brains, right? It's incredible to note those changes. They're profound. Like every firing, every laying down of memory, every thought we have, every happy chemical we have, this is all associated with hormones. So it's some we think of it kind of like in this tiny, tiny way in our culture, but it's huge and all over the body. It's like a big skin over our body, our hormone system, right? It's controlling everything. It's all over everything. It's involved in everything. It's everything. So important to think about it and to properly address your sleep issues, because many, many, many of our problems are fundamentally from our sleep issues.
And it's you going to a doctor. I can't tell you. I have a lot of patients who, they get prescribed sleep meds. I think it's a little better now than it was like 10 years ago, where it was like Ambien, Lunesta, everybody, and people now are
Mhm.
recognizing like, okay, these are not long-term solutions whatsoever. It's fine
Increase
short-term.
all-cause mortality, like you die more. You're more likely to die if you're on sleep medications. So that's really important and crazy to think about, so that we do not want to be on those meds.
And I feel like many of my patients rely on diphenhydramine, which is Benadryl.
Mhm.
So I have a lot of women that are like, well, I just have taken yesterday I had a man. I've just taken Benadryl my whole life. Okay. So, or, for the last 5 years or 6 years, I take a Benadryl,
Mhm.
and it's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. So look at like, I'm not against using chemistry to like get the result that we need, and sleep's really important. So if people are going through trauma or people are going through a really hard time, like, we have a lot of tools that we can use. Like, I'm not suggesting that we don't use tools to support people where they need, but it always comes down to you're not managing your hormone balance properly, or there's something else happening that's acting as a nighttime irritant, like an environmental toxicant like mold. Many times there could be mold in the room or something. That's a different conversation. But we can't just take a sleep aid. We have to, and there's a complicated thing happening at night with our hormones, with our sex hormones, estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, with melatonin, and that's released from our pineal gland. That's a nighttime antioxidant and does a lot of repair. So there are nutrient deficiencies that come into play. So often magnesium deficiencies will amp up the system that you can feel more at night. If many patients are getting cortisol surges at night, so their stress hormones are dysregulated many times for women because they're not eating enough during the day. Kara touched on it before, but you're not eating enough during the day and you're exercising too hard. So you get a nighttime surge of cortisol. It's a very delicate thing. But if you're having a hard time falling asleep or night waking, usually there's an hormone imbalance. And what we're saying is just taking the sleep aids is just a straight up Band-Aid that's not fixing the problem. So,
and it's potentially making it worse. So like you mentioned, the trauma cases where often if we're in a stress mode and the cortisol and adrenaline is just so high, you can't sleep. It's, it's a stressed out animal situation, obviously. But if you give people other ways to
Kara just like totally
their
froze.
approach than a sleeping aid that never quite gets the person into deep sleep. So those things don't allow us to really drop into where you're dreaming and having the real restorative sleep that we're all going for. So really important to look at sleep. And you and I are teaching a workshop on sleep because it is so important. And there's so many aspects to fixing our sleep patterns and identifying what your inherent issues are. So each person has kind of their own setup, right? For this, you and I have really different sleep situations. So we are doing that workshop coming up. So feel free to hit the link below to learn more about that, because we're really advocating for you to address your sleep. And you will be completely shocked at how many of your little symptoms and maybe bigger symptoms go away if you get good quality sleep. And it doesn't even have to be every night. It's like most nights, every 10 days you don't get a great night's sleep, we're okay. Our bodies are made to repair from that. It's just, we have to work on it and put some effort and put it at the top priority. We don't want to keep pushing sleep down to, I'll catch up on it, because that's not how it works.
Are you speaking to me?
I'm kind of looking at you right now.
And it's great. It's such a good thing. Like, nobody gets to spend a deep dive with their doctor where they spend 2.5 hours or 3 hours thinking about all the different things that amount up to sleep. So hence our sleep workshop. But anyway, honey.
Yes. Fix problems by fixing sleep. Let's do that.
Fix problems by fixing sleep. Yes. Fair. Great.
I'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.